Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day to everybody. Welcome to another episode on the challenges and triumph of online teaching during COVID-19 at the Female Educators Roundtable with your host, Debbie Enoe from Teacher Success Coach, and another of my female colleagues from around the world. Welcome, 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 and thank you very
Hello.
much for coming on board. Can you
Yes.
introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paquita Benoit. I am from Louisiana, located in the United States, the southern portion of the United States. I am a first grade teacher in a public school system, which means I teach children who are 6 years old, their first formal grade, their first formal grade in the school system when they begin learning in schools.
Okay, okay.
I'm a married mother of three boys. I have a high school senior, a high school freshman, and a 9-year-old fourth grader. So things in my house are a little bit interesting at
Chaotic.
all times. At all
Yep. Thank you very much for that.
times.
Welcome again. And yet again, another episode on the experience of my educators around the world. Some of the experience that they've actually went through during COVID-19. Most of them have taught that time, and then now some of them are going back into the physical classroom, or some of them have actually transitioned onto the online platform for the second time. The first time I see it as a trial run because none of us were trained, none of us had experience. We had to train ourselves and we gained the experience as we went along. And the beautiful thing with educators are we we think on our feet. We actually do things as we go along sometimes because sometimes we just have to run with a situation. You have no choice. You might have a lesson plan and something happen, you cannot use the lesson plan as it is. You just have to abandon the lesson plan sometimes and just run with your lesson. You have no choice. So as educators, we are extremely versatile and we are very flexible. And we one of these people that think on our feet all the time because we have a range of personality in the classroom, a range of needs, a range of attitude, you name it, we've got all of that in one classroom. Sometimes we would have 30 children. If we're lucky, we might have 25. But some class have upward of 45. I have one educator a few weeks ago who told me that she's got 45 children in a class. That's a lot of children to have to deal with. So when people are saying they know what we do as educators, no, you don't. You just have your child or your children to deal with. We have other people's children we actually embrace as our own. So when people are saying that we don't love the children enough, so we don't want to go back to school, etc. We just have anxiety like everyone else because remember, we are human first, parents, wives, etc., and we educators second.
Mhm.
And we're not super anybody because the minute people start attaching labels and program, they expect us to act according to the program they attach us to. I.e., when they say that you're a superhero, they expect you to act as a superhero, forgetting that is just a character in the cartoon series. Okay, I am not ranting, I'm just making a few statements. Okay, can you tell us your experience of the online platform?
Um, when the COVID-19 pandemic affected our school system, our last day in the actual classroom was March 13th. That was a Friday. When we
Okay.
left, we had no intention of never returning. The idea was, okay, we'll be back in a few weeks. So we'll just take this time and do a little bit of review work and it'll be okay. No one predicted we would not return to the classroom until the following school year.
Mm.
So when we started the distance learning, our district initially told parents, oh, online work will not be mandatory. Your child does not have to complete the assignments. We're going to just continue to offer the learning for you. If you can't do the online learning, if you don't have access to an internet source, we'll be printing paper packets. Well, the packets came in delayed. And then everybody could not receive a packet because the cost of to print the packet was expensive. And teachers basically dedicated their time to organizing an online platform to teach with no experience. So any experience that was used to create the learning online was something that you had to pursue on your own, from just, well, let's try this program and see if it works for my little six-year-olds that don't really know what to click when they go on a computer, other than Minecraft or Roblox or something like that. So they had to learn how to navigate a system just like the teachers had to learn how to navigate it. Like, I didn't know how to post certain materials for them to do. So that was a learning process for me as the instructor. And then once parents realized that, okay, well, they're giving the kids this work, but the school district said they didn't have to do it, they stopped doing it. On March 13th, I had 27 children on my roster. I had 7 children to log on to the online platform to complete assignments. I only had 2 to actually sit down and do the assignments. One was extremely advanced, so she breezed through everything. And then I had one that was a struggling student. And the scores that he was receiving on the online assignments, I know there was a family member that was completing the work for him, that he wasn't doing it on his own because he was a non-reader. And the assignments that he was doing online and completing online were on a 4th grade level.
Wow.
During school, you were a non-reader in 1st grade, but the 2 weeks we've been out, magically you can read on the 4th grade level.
Wow.
So I knew he was not completing the work himself. So I kind of felt like the school district kind of gave the parents an out. And I honestly do believe it was because they did not anticipate not returning to the room, to the classroom. So once they've already stated it, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
So over the summer, the children were not expected to complete any virtual assignments. It was just, you have an extended summer break. And I want to say within maybe the last 3 weeks, 3 weeks ago, within the last 3 weeks, our school district had to vote whether or not they wanted us to return to the classroom on August 17th or to push back the starting date to a later time to give parents and students and educators the time to adapt to what school is going to look like in the fall. At that point, parents nor educators were given any information about what certain online programs would look like in the classroom. We weren't given any guidelines of how many students were going to be in the room if we do social distancing, how we're going to spread everybody out 6 feet, who's going to provide sanitation supplies, who's going to be responsible for cleaning, who's responsible for monitoring the person that's supposed to do the cleaning. Like, we had so many unknowns. And so the teacher unions were asking, well, can you just push school back until September so we can answer these questions? The board voted no. They were going to go jump head first August 17th. On our school board, they're the deciding body for a lot of the policies that take place in our school system. So we do have a medical professional on our school board. And he stated that there will be dire consequences if you open school on August 17th. He said, I understand everyone's point of view. He said, I know I'm probably the only one that's not going to push for the opening. But he said, whatever happens, I just want y'all to realize that you're responsible for the consequences if you send those children back into the school system. I don't know what shift in the environment occurred, but maybe 5 days ago, our district announced that they were going to push school back to September the 8th. And it was like, finally, they finally realized you're not ready. And my greatest fear as an educator is having a child in my classroom contract the virus, gets deathly ill or passes away, and there was nothing that I could have done to prevent it. Because there were no protocols in place in terms of masks and the sanitation process. So I am grateful that the school board finally realized we need to take a step back, because our numbers where I live are steadily increasing. We have not had a drop in our numbers since maybe June. From that point on, they've been climbing. We get over 1,000 new cases a day in our state. That's just too much to put a child into that environment. Our school system is located in an area where we have a lot of low socioeconomic families. They don't have the best care, medical care, programs for medical care. A lot of them have government issued medical programs that don't really perform as well as private insurance. A lot of our families do not have internet access. They have devices to access the internet. Our school district was supposed to provide each student with a device. Now they're saying, oh, we may not get them to November, but you want to start school in August? Like, you don't have what you need to successfully begin the school year in a pandemic. A lot of our students live in households where there's 3 generations in a household: grandparents, parents, children, some of them 4. Some of the children have children. And that's a lot of different bodies that go different places during the day. They're going to congregate back together at the end of the day with all of those potential germs. So, and that cross-contamination keeps occurring. It's going to keep occurring, and it's going to drive the numbers up. So I'm grateful that they have decided to delay the start. That gives time to answer some of these hard questions. What do we do if a child gets sick in the classroom? Are we going to quarantine the entire class? Or are we going to close down the whole school and quarantine the school? They've finally come to a point where they can answer these questions. They had no answers at first, but you wanted to start school. You're like, but the kids want to go to school. Well, I want a brand new car, but it's not the best thing for me. So I send my child into an environment that could be detrimental to their health. And not just the children, the educators. What if the teachers get sick? Who's going to fill in? Because I doubt a substitute teacher is going to want to put their lives on the line for a teacher that's already been sick. So it was just a real scary situation. We have an online academy now. They've established an online academy for students that don't want to come to the school. Okay. So now there's an online academy they're enrolling, and children will have the option of virtual learning through the online academy. However, it's not a teacher from our school district. It is a education program. So it only plays videos. And if you have a question or you need assistance, then you must reach out to a teacher for that further assistance that you may need. So if a child is a self-starter, stays on task, completes assignments, that would be a good forum for them. A lot of the students in my school where I work, that wouldn't be a good fit because they struggle with so much. There's multiple people in the home. They have to get the device. They have to get the internet service. They have to have someone help them at home and questions that they may not have the answers to. But then in another school in our district, on another side of town, it's a great fit. They could just take up their whole school and enroll them and it'll work. So there's just, this pandemic has revealed a lot of disparities.
Yes.
In education for lower income families, how they're not given the same opportunities to learn. And that's what the problem is. There's no equity in the education system where I live.
What do you mean? Expand on that, please.
Okay. A lot of people think of it, oh, we need equality. They have 5, we need 5. No, we need equity. We need what they need. We need what is going to get us on the same playing field. I don't want to have the same as you. I want to be at a state where I can perform the same as you. So whatever it's going to take me to get to your level to perform at the same rate, that's what I need. If you have 10 laptops, I may need 30 to get to where you are. So being equitable as opposed to being equal is more important. So like our state received funding from the federal government to help children during the pandemic. We have this funding, but the resources are still not available. Yes, we know we need laptops. Yes, we have ordered laptops, but are they here? So it's taken our education system a minute to catch up to what's really going on and how to fix the problem. But like you said, teachers jumped in, ready to work, and yet we still receive criticism. Oh, the teachers just don't want to go to school. Oh, that is not the case at all. I joined this profession because of my love of learning and my love of children. So why would I not want to pursue something that I love, children and learning? But if it's going to be harmful to me and harmful to my students, I'm not going to put us in that position if I don't have to. I shouldn't have to. So why are we focusing on the money and not life? And I've told this to my friends. I was like, they were like, I don't understand. I was like, follow the money. When you follow the money, it will answer all of your questions. It's all of students have been minimized to a $sign in our country. I don't know how it is around the world, but testing and test scores and putting teachers on a rating scale is all connected to funding. And when you don't have that funding, the school can't operate. So I can understand the school being forced into a situation well, we've got to get the money. We have to start school. We need the money to function. Or how else will the kids eat? You won't have electricity. You won't have water. You won't have books. So I can understand it, but all the decisions that are being made for financial purposes. And it's sad that it has to come down to that you have to weigh health over finances. That's what it's turning into.
You know,
okay, how did I rambled?
No, thank you for that. You know what actually came to mind as well as you were talking? One of the things is, even though your children wanted to come online, there is no way some of them would have been able to do that because they wouldn't have the resources or the internet, because you said some of them don't have internet connection. It's 3-4 generation in a home. So therefore, in terms of the device would be an issue. So unless the state actually supported them financially to get the internet, there's no way your 27 children would be able to access the internet.
Exactly.
So forget about having them online. Resource itself is an issue.
And the thing about it is, I feel like there's such a disconnect in our environment, our community where we are. Those that have don't realize the number of people that don't have. So they're thinking, oh, it's just a small number. They can deal with. No, it's a lot of kids. It's a lot of kids that don't come to school with their basic necessities, much less have internet. We have so many schools in our school system. We have a program that provides 100% free lunch to schools if you have a certain percentage of low economic status children in your school. Most of our schools have they're on that free program. Well, 100% of the school gets free lunch. Just a few schools in our district have to pay for lunch. Wow. So I think that should be an eye opener to some people in our community. We don't realize how destitute some of our children are. If you can sit down and listen to the stories that they tell you, there's many days I felt like not going in, but I know if I didn't go to work, this baby would not see anybody today that's going to tell them you're awesome, or I love you, or thank you for coming today. Some of them do not get that unless they come to school. That's my greatest concern about being away from my students, the trauma that they've experienced not being in school every day. And now we're going to have to balance this pandemic and trauma that they've experienced due to that, like with jobs being lost, family members passing away. We have to deal with that, as well as catching them up and then solving problems that they had before the pandemic. So it's going to be a tough fight. And I'm happy to go back to be that positive light for a child that doesn't really get it every day.
But that has to be done in a safe environment.
Yes. That's the only positive that I can draw from me going into my classroom. I'm going to make some child have a better day today than they had before they came.
You see, thank you. One of my major concern and anxiety, well, it's more for concern than anxiety, when school opened in September, because we're going back on the either 7th or 8th of September. And for me, the academic ability or the intellectual aspect of that child, for me, comes way down, because I feel that we need to deal with the emotional aspect of that child, the psychological aspect of that child, because people are not taking it in that when we educators go back, as well as we having our own issues in relationship to the trauma, the anxiety, etc., that we've all gone through, we also are being responsible for the 29 or 25 plus children in our care. We are also responsible for ensuring that the psychological and emotional well-being are looked at, because as we know, in no educational institution there would be enough therapists, counselors, or psychologists to effectively deal with the situation that we now facing. So educators' role have always been changed every day. It would even be more so. We are going to find when we go back, our role is more so to look at the psychological and emotional well-being of that child than thinking about the intellectual. For me, the intellectual will come way down the bottom. I'm not even interested in that.
Correct.
You know, because as much as we have children or we have parents that are saying, okay, I am going to get a private tuition for my child, what people are failing to realize is, have you dealt with the emotional and psychological aspect of that child before you actually get in that private tutor to help that child? That child will be going on the line, but do you really know what's going on in the mind of that child? Because that child is demonstrating that everything is okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that that child is okay. And I feel that is what I'm seeing right now. Parents are so caught up into the intellectual aspect of that child, they are forgetting to look at the emotional and psychological aspect of the child, which need to be addressed. So something which I need to, we need to actually be aware of is when the child behavior pattern is different from what the child normally demonstrates, we need to look at that, because those are alarm bells.
Yes.
And those are things that parents need to be looking out for, because too often we are pushing this intellectual aspect into these children, not taking on board the emotional and psychological trauma that these children just came from. Because it has been a trauma. Call it whatever we like to, but it is a trauma, because these children have been used to interacting with their friends, seeing their friends on a daily basis, and when they know they're not coming back to school, there's a different goodbye on that. Where now they've actually been, school have closed automatically, had no choice. And then we are talking about the academic aspect of that child. Come on. The mental health of all countries would be skyrocket unless we as educators and parents and politicians start looking at the real issue, which is the psychological and emotional aspect of these children we'll be dealing with, because people are forgetting that. My background is psychology. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, whoa, it's big, but nobody is looking at those aspects. And for me, it's quite sad, because what seems to be at the forefront of everybody's mind is the intellectual. We need to reassess. And something you said twice is looking at the disparity in relationship to what these children would need to be at that level. And that's something need to be really, really looked at.
Yes.
How are you in terms of, yes, you had 2 or 3 children logged on, so didn't even matter, because you couldn't have them all logged on, because as you say, they didn't have the resource to log on. And it's quite, I must say, maybe I'm naive, I find it very, very alarming that we are talking about the USA. We are not talking about some remote country in the Caribbean or Africa or India, whereby we know there is no internet service, etc. We are looking at the USA, which is supposed to be a developed, exactly in quotes, a developed country. But I'm afraid when you look at countries like the remote areas of Africa, Caribbean, Asia, etc., they've done much better. So it's quite sad, and it's also quite alarming.
It's more of an accurate picture of what people perceive life is like in the United States. I've noticed a lot of people feel like I can come to the United States and I'll have a new life and I'll just excel. While there are many Americans who are here who are struggling. We have an extreme homeless population that has grown. We see more vagrants, panhandling, begging for money. We have a very high drug epidemic in the United States that is destroying families. We're not this great country that the picture's painted out to be. We have our problems and flaws that need to be fixed if our country is going to get any better than what we are right now for any progression.
And you see, it seems to be more so within the education sector in relationship to giving children the basic education they need. Once they leave the physical classroom, it becomes a totally different situation.
I don't want to get into politics, but however, some people believe that the responsibility of educating your population should not be on the government. It should not be their responsibility to fund schools. I cannot disagree with that statement more than they believe a private owned, private business sector like sponsorship would be a better fit for operating schools as opposed to the federal government. So there's a lot of drawback. Well, we have to decrease funding for schools. The government can't afford it, but we can afford other things.
Mm, mm, mm,
We're not paying attention to what's happening around us.
mm.
There's been a steady decline, and education is the focus of it all. We have we still have a large population of people that are illiterate.
Mm.
We have functioning illiterate people. I listen to parents when they call or they'll write notes, and it just breaks my heart to read a note from a parent and they can't write on the level of a third grader.
Whoa.
But you're a parent that has to provide for your family, that has to pay bills and educate your own child, and you're struggling yourself.
Mm, mm.
So it's a never ending cycle. It's just continuing to spiral out of control. And I think the pandemic has opened people's eyes to see, okay, we have some problems that need to be fixed.
Mm, mm.
Like, it's a terrible situation. COVID-19 is caused horrible consequences, but has also made other people more aware of what someone other than themselves is going through.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it really is, it's quite sad, in terms of, yes, you had two children that you need to deal with on the online. But as I said, even though you had the 27 wanting to, there's no way they could have logged on because they don't have the resources to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the children who had the resources to log on. So even though your state didn't say to parents, don't take it seriously, even though they told them to take it seriously, there was nothing they could have done unless they provide them with the laptops.
And I feel like they knew that the students weren't prepared with the correct resources at home to complete the assignments. So I think that's why they said it's not mandatory. You don't have to do it, but it will be helpful to continue your learning.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to take that approach.
Yeah, because they also know that they did not deliver the resources in order to enable this family to log on and to get the education they needed for these children. Because
exactly.
If they had no, as you say, some of them had no internet connection, some of them had no laptop, etc. In order to get the children to be equipped to learn on the online platform, you need to provide them with a resource because you know what your area has, you know what your children need.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I must say, I find it, as an educator, I find it very, very sad because it's a situation where your hands are tied, there is nothing you could do.
Yep.
So even though you wanted to teach more than two children, there's nothing you could do.
Exactly.
So how was those two children? Did they finish off the program you had for them? What were the issues, etc.?
They've actually completed assignments until through the end of the school year. But like I said, one of the students was a low performing student, and the scores that he was achieving on the assignments, I know he was not completing the assignments. And if he did do them, he wasn't doing it independently. Somebody was encouraging him or prompting him on what to click. Like I said, he was a non-reader. He has been diagnosed with a learning disability. He struggled with letters and letter sounds and connecting those sounds to make words. So I know he couldn't read an entire paragraph, much less a sentence. And my other student, she came to my class from a different school. She was in a Montessori school.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So she was advanced when she came to my class. And her dad called, he was like, she is almost done with this program. Is there something else she can do? And I was like, it's only been like 4 weeks. And he was like, well, she's done. I was like, okay, well, I'll find something else that she can do that'll help track her progress. And I just knew she would excel. I knew she would. And her family, I wouldn't say that they are privileged. However, she had everything she needed to be successful with online learning: a supportive family, resources, internet. The parents had the mental capability to handle the responsibility of teaching at home. So I knew she would do well. But what happens to my other 25?
Exactly. But when you go back, you no longer have the 25, do you? They go on to another class. Is that it?
Yes, they are moving on to the next grade level. When we go back on September 8th, our district has decided to go with either the students attend the online academy or the ones that are choosing to come to school. They will come to school on A days and B days. So you'll have a group of kids that come Monday and Wednesday. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, you have another group of kids. And then they rotate every other Friday.
Okay.
So in the classroom on any given day, we'll have between 8 to 12 students per day.
Right.
So that the benefit of having the smaller group, will have more time to pinpoint a student's needs. Like, okay, I know you're missing this from last year, so this is what we're going to work on to get you caught up or to help you be more successful. Because it may take 2 to 3 years to catch a child up for the learning that we missed in the spring. It's not going to be automatic. It's not going to happen in the school year. It may take 2, it may take 3 years to catch them up on what they missed.
Yeah.
So the smaller numbers are going to be helpful. It's going to be, the smaller numbers are going to kind of help us keep a ring around, okay, this student was with this student on Monday and Wednesday. Instead of exposing 24 other kids, you're only going to be exposing another 7 if you were to become infected. So that is a, I guess not a plus, but it's not a negative.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's positive, but it's not a negative.
You see, one of the things is you've said that the child that one of the children you had in the class on the online platform, he was a struggling reader. So what's going to happen to that child? Because as an educator, we both know our student in terms of their academic ability. It doesn't matter what anybody says to us. We actually know that we actually been teaching them, so we know what they're capable of doing. And we know in terms of, we measure how they progress, so we know how the progression is taking place. So what's going to happen with that child who you are aware that did not do all the work himself?
Well, he already has a, in our country, we call him an IEP, an individualized education plan. It means he's been diagnosed with a disability in learning. So his accommodations will be addressed through his IEP. However, when school starts, we're going to do some assessments to see, okay, what skill is he struggling with? And then a plan will be developed from there to help to catch him up. So we're going to start where he is and work through intervention to catch him up to where he needs to be.
Okay. So that would be, more or less a much more accurate record of where the child is. So even though you had an idea that he did not do the work by himself, was there any way you could you have addressed it with your family?
Well, I had a relationship with his mother. Like I could call her and discuss things with her. And like she would just open. Well, we were working on it. And so I was reading it out loud to him. And I was like, you're not supposed to read it out loud to him. He's supposed to read on his own. Oh. So it's like she wanted to help, but she didn't know she was helping too much.
Right.
And like I see her in the grocery store. Oh, he's so ready to come to school. I said, but he does know he's not going to be in my class again, right? She was like, yeah, but I'm going to make him stop by and tell you hi every day. I was like, okay.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, but the interesting thing is at least she was aware and she wanted to help. That's one of the issues with the online platform. You had parents who were overzealous in terms of helping their children. Especially, it's like I've been listening to the educators and they're all saying the same thing, especially the young ones, because parents don't want that the young ones to fail in that way, or they don't want everybody to know that they're not able to read effectively. So as a result of that,
as an insult.
Sorry?
Parents take it as an insult. Oh, my child's not performing. It must be something wrong with me. No, it's just that your child learns a little different.
Yeah.
So, and I think some of them, they just try to keep them. And I'm like, just let him do the work. Let's see what he can do. Step back for a second and see because he may surprise you. So, but yeah, she was just a bit much.
Sorry?
She was just a bit much. She's just that way. But she wants her child to be successful, and that's a good attitude to have.
Yeah. But there's sometimes, you want the child to be successful so much so that you're actually doing it for them and not stepping back and allowing them to do it. Because when they get back into the classroom, in our classroom, we kind of are thinking, okay, I've got this beautiful piece of work, but can you discuss it? And then you realize they don't even know what you're talking about. That's what. So it's interesting. This online platform have showed us a lot of issues. It brought up a lot of issues. It's brought up the positive as well as the negative. You also make us realize in terms of differentiation that on the platform, the children were deciding what time they were coming on the platform and what they were going to do. The fact that you had the little ones, it was more, it would have been more prescriptive because the little ones would come on according to when the parents are able for them to come on.
Yeah.
So it's all of that. So what would you say in terms of tips? What 3 tips would you give educators from the online platform?
Okay. My first tip would be do not overwhelm yourself with trying to know how to operate everything. I think that's kind of where I went wrong because I was like, okay, I'm going to learn all the programs. I'm going to figure out how to get them on this one and how to get on this one. And I should have just taken a step back, and you just need to pinpoint the most important things that you want them to do. Don't try to overwhelm yourself doing too much because the students are not going to follow. The parents are not going to follow. And then you're going to be lost trying to figure out why can't they get it. So I kind of think that my low participation rate may have been me trying to get too much done. Another tip I would provide, be in constant communication with the parent. Figure out why the child is not logging on. What can you do to substitute in place of what you're offering? Because some parents could not, due to the fact that some of them could not get on or did not have a device, we had to come up with learning packets, our district printed packets. But then after the packets were passed out and distributed, I would have parents that come, well, I didn't go pick up my packet when you told me to. I had to go to work. or I had nobody to watch my kids, so I couldn't come and get the packet. Is there a way I can get another one? Do you have a neighbor? It was like, well, do you have a neighbor? Because the teachers didn't get a packet. The district only distributed them to the parents because school was closed. We couldn't come on campus.
Okay,
No
okay.
way they could get, there was no way we could get a packet together for a parent. They gave us online access. However, I don't think my printer can print out 150 pages and not break down. Like I don't have an industrial strength printer. I have like a home use printer. So like the packets were very extensive. So at one point I was like, well, if you know somebody with the computer, or if you have a computer at your job, here's the website that the school board has put the packets on. Ask them if you can print out a few pages at a time. So making sure that the parents and the children had access to an alternative is a tip. So if they can't meet you on the virtual platform, you need to figure out an alternative for them to have some type of learning opportunity.
Yeah, but even though you guys have had an alternative, that didn't work either, did it?
No, not really, not fully, because I still had a good number of students that did not collect the packet. They couldn't go get it, or they didn't go get it, or the parent had to work, or they didn't have transportation. A lot of our students don't have transportation.
So that was a waste of time actually even printing some of those packages out.
Oh, yeah, possibly. Yeah. So it was, and I also had a parent say, well, the little girl next door to me is in another class. Is her packet the same? I was like, yes. So if y'all want to get your two girls to work together on that packet, that'll be fine. As long as they're doing some type of learning to prevent regression.
So when they've actually done information from the package, who marked it? Did you guys mark it? What's the situation?
Our school district pooled resources together and made the packet. I think what they actually did was get resources from another school system, and use that. I'm not sure if somebody from our district themselves actually put that packet together.
Okay,
It was something that they collaborated with another school in our state.
Okay, so when the children do the package, what happened to the work they've done?
We don't collect it. We're not going to, I'm not going to collect it. You have germs at your house that I don't want to touch.
So that was, so the point was just for them to do it, just to keep them occupied, isn't it?
Basically, it was busy work.
Exactly. It's just to get them to do the work, because if nobody's going to mark it, there's no point.
It's not being marked. It's not checked for a grade. It wasn't a pass or fail. It was just for you to do some work to keep you on track.
That's interesting. Okay. Is there anything that you are going to take from the online platform into the classroom? Because you are going back into the physical classroom in September. So is there anything?
I would be more organized with my, or more strategic with my online planning. Make sure everything that I submit for online learning is beneficial to the student learning, not just to keep them busy or engaged. Because right now we are in a phase where we can have a certain number of students at school to do the A days and B days. If the virus continues to spread in our area, we're going to be back on complete virtual for everyone.
Okay.
And I want to prepare my students when we go back. I want to prepare them from the beginning. This is a laptop.
Mm.
This is how we charge it. This is how we get on it. You see this icon right here? Like, I feel like I'm going to have to break it down for them slowly, because I
Mhm.
do feel like we're going to be back on that full virtual platform with the way that the cases are still rising here.
Right. So which means as soon as you get into the physical classroom, your focus would be teaching the children how to use the laptop, to use any of the device that would enable them to get online when you actually shift over.
Yeah, I basically have three objectives when we enter the classroom, when we go back to the classroom on September 8th. The first one, we are assessing to see where the student is academically, making sure we can make a plan to catch them up. The second objective, making sure they are practicing social distancing, good sanitation procedures, washing hands, wearing your mask, covering your cough, how to cover your cough, staying away from others, no touching. They're little, so we have to tell them no touching, no touching. We don't touch.
Exactly.
And
Constant.
then my third objective, help them learn the technology that's going to be used if we go back to virtual learning.
My goodness, it's like telling them don't touch. And with that age group, they're constantly nose running, they're constantly tissue, they're constantly coming to you for a hug. Oh my goodness.
And that's going to be so hard when a child comes to hug you and you have to tell them, stop, I can't touch you.
Exactly.
And because little ones don't understand that. They see you, they hug you, and now you have germs too. So that's going to be a hard part, not reaching out to the kids and being able to have that physical nurturing, because they still cry when they come to school. I don't want to be at school. I want my mom. So I'm just going to let you stand there and cry because I can't touch you. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard adjustment to this new normal that we're faced with in September.
Yeah. Because you see, that's one of the hardest things, when people are saying that, oh, educators you're afraid to go back to work. These are some of the issues. Our job, it's very unusual. There is no job that you actually would go and hug your client. Even though you're a nurse, that doesn't happen. The profession that you have, these little feet coming to you, and soon as you walk into the classroom, they just pounce on you. And then you have the running nose, and that you have to constantly have the tissue wiping this nose. There's so many issues and so many reasons why educators are thinking twice and three times in terms of wanting to go back to the classroom. Our jobs are unusual. So unusual, especially the educators teaching the younger children. Could you imagine, this child come to your class, she is new to your class, she is standing there crying because she's spent all this time being at home with mom and sister, whatever, and she's standing there crying because she doesn't want to go into the classroom, to sit down in the classroom. What you going to do? How are you going to negotiate this one? What are you going to
do? I have no idea what I'm going to physically do. I can just pray for the best and pray that the decisions I make in my room are going to keep me safe, keep my students safe and healthy.
It is true, because I cannot see, as an educator, the children come into the classroom the first time, the young children, and one of them crying because they didn't want to stay. The normal thing you'll do, reassure them, then the eyes running, the nose running, then you go for your box of tissue, etc., etc. I cannot see that educators would stand there and not reach out. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yep.
It's a tough one. These are some of the reasons why we are thinking 2 and 3 times in terms of going back to the classroom when this virus is so high, especially for educators teaching 4 and 5-year-olds, from anything from 4-year-old to 7-year-olds. It's tough. I'm fortunate because I no longer teach that age group, but I could see this child coming and crying, standing there crying. You automatically want to embrace them. And I could see educators going out and embrace them, because that's how your mind thinks. It's only after you've done to think, whoops.
Yep.
It's a tough one. One I have no answer for. One I cannot, I've got no suggestions for, I've got no answer for. As you say, it's a matter of just praying that everything's going to be okay and just going with your intuition. Which 9 out of 10 times say to you, oh, okay, then it's going to be okay. Mommy's going to come back for you later. Automatic. Social distance you're supposed to keep, but I cannot. It's, you know, or that child running up to you because the child is anxious or fearful, and then the child run and grab you and you're pushing them away. Oh my goodness, this is tough.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough transition.
Yeah, definitely. And I really, really feel sorry for you guys who are teaching the under 7-year-olds in terms of going back to the classroom, and then you're saying to a 4-year-old, you need to keep your distance. You cannot come close to miss. I don't know. I don't know. The more and more you think about it, the more and more it makes you feel quite sad.
It is quite sad, yes.
You know, it really is. It's really sad, because for the older children, that's easy to do, because, you know, teaching ages 14 plus or even from 7 plus, they have the understanding. So therefore, when you said no social distances, you know, you need to keep it apart, etc. That's fine, because you repeat it several times, that's fine. But when you're looking at under 7-year-old, the 4-year-olds coming, nose running, eyes running, crying because, you know, they come into the classroom and, you know, mom or dad or whoever dropped them off is just leaving them, and they're coming to you, tears, everything. What do you do? Stand there and watch them. Oh. I don't know.
And like you said, that's going to go back to some type of trauma. My teacher didn't love me. She never talked to me. She never hugged me. She never gave me a pat on the shoulder. Baby, I couldn't. Exactly. So, you know, that's how would you feel being put into an environment with a stranger and they had no interaction with you? Just talk to you.
Exactly. That's going to lead, as you rightly say, to a greater trauma, because that child would feel rejected. And this is happening the 3 days the child comes to you. That's a major rejection, which also has so much, oh my goodness. It has so much bearing in the future of that child's life. Because this is a 4-year-old who would feel rejected because this teacher is unable to embrace that child because the child is crying, the child comes to the classroom, etc. That would have a major effect on the development of that child and the child's ability to attach.
You're right.
And the child's ability for relationship. Oh my goodness, this is big. This is big, and I'm not too sure that this is actually being looked at in the full sense of the word. This actually opens a different can of worms for us as educators and psychologists, etc. For me, it opens a different thing for me altogether, because not only, you know, I'm wearing different hats, you know, in terms of a CBT practitioner, psychologist, and an educator. So I'm wearing all of that. I'm looking in terms of attachment. I'm looking in terms of the child ability I'm looking in terms of rejection. I'm looking in terms of all of that, and also knowing the impact that will have on the child in terms of later life. This is big. And don't have any answers. What are your opinions on school reopening? You've said that. And, you know, the fact that they say that we are all lazy, the fact that we are demonstrating uncertainty and we are uncaring, etc. You know, what actually comes to mind?
It makes me angry. On social media, I follow a lot of different forums where, you know, even there's just the regular media news, or I'm a Facebook group there have been so many statements. Oh, the teachers are just lazy. They just want to sit at home and collect a check. We've had statements being made like that from our own school board officials. Oh, they got paid for staying home, didn't they? I'm sorry, but I'm not going to put myself in a position to harm myself on purpose. Secondly, I didn't make the decision to still receive a paycheck during the pandemic. That budget was passed through the government for me to receive my pay. So I'm going to take my pay just like you, sir, took your pay for sitting at home and not attending a school board meeting.
Exactly.
So I felt very offended and very victimized because even our governing officials think so little of us, not just the outside public, but the people that pay us think so little of us. The new responsibilities that teachers are going to have. We questioned, well, who's going to do the sanitizing? The teacher. Who's going to make sure the child doesn't have a fever? The teacher. Who's going to sit with the child if he does have fever? A teacher on your campus. We are being thrown into roles that we are not trained for at all. I'm not a medical professional. I never took a medical course in my life. Yet I have to take a child's temperature every day, twice a day. I'm not the school janitor. I'm not responsible for cleaning, yet I will be given cleaner and gloves and paper towels to wipe and sanitize my classroom twice a day. We've just been added new job responsibilities and added on new titles. And most people are saying, well, we pay them enough. That burns me up. Because I feel like what teacher did you have in your life that ruined your life so bad for you to be so angry with teachers? What has a teacher done to you to make you so angry with teachers?
You know, and the interesting thing about it is when they say you get paid enough, really, none of us went into that profession because we want to be millionaires. Because there is no way, if we want to be millionaire, we would not become an educator, because teaching is one of the lowest paid professions.
Most valuable, lowest paid.
Exactly. And we are always doing the work. It is not a complaint. People need to hear that, because too often when you actually put in a situation, the first thing they say, oh, you guys are always complaining. We're not complaining, we're putting the record straight. Because as educators, we are always educating, and we always have so many roles. That is the only profession I could think about that probably wear 30 different hats. Because when we all go back into that classroom, we'll have role of a therapist, we'll have role of a medical practitioner, we'll have role of a counselor, we'll have role as the parents. We'll have role as everything you could think about. We will be having those roles. And then we still have to be the educator. So when you think of all of that, it's amazing, because we still have to be cleaning this, you know, with gloves and everything, cleaning this classroom, because we have to clean our own classrooms. Because even before the pandemic, I'm going into the classroom and thinking, whoa, look at the state of this classroom. Was there a cleaner? Yes, but my desk is still filthy. So I still have to be cleaning the desk and tidying up. We still have to do all of that.
Yes.
This is the only profession that wears so many hats. And yet still, it is still our responsibility. And then you have children that come to school that they haven't had breakfast, they had so many issues, they have a backpack on the back when they come to school. That backpack, we have to unpack it before we actually start educating them, because there's so many things in that backpack that child is carrying that we cannot even teach the child yet. We have to start unpacking that backpack until we get to the core that we could actually start teaching them intellectually. Sometimes we cannot even teach that child intellectually, because that backpack, the more we unpack, we still haven't finished unpacking it.
Yep.
And then you are saying to us that we are lazy. We don't want to go back. Who do we think we are? We are cowards. Really? Okay. It's an ongoing saga. And I do feel that the reason why educators have been disrespected and sometimes belittled is because, that's my view on this, because it is the majority, it is a female profession, and female in society are not given the respect or the value they ought to get. And we are automatically seen and perceived to be in a caring role. And in those roles, it is seen by society that this is what you're meant to do. So we are programmed as to what we are meant and supposed to do. So as a result of that, the mass people out there would continue the programming. That's my view on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot think of profession that are male dominated that the disrespectfulness is so great. Are there any comments?
I don't have any comments.
That's my experience. I've been in the profession for over 25 years. I've done all different kind of teaching. I've been, teaching as well as doing other things in different profession. But teaching, I've always been either the full-time or the part-time. So I've always taught and do other, being into different profession, but at the same time alongside teaching. So in those respects, looking at it and reflecting, I just feel that is one of the issue because it is a predominantly female role. Mm-hmm. And as we know, predominantly female role carries with them the label, the programming, and social norms behavior of the caring aspect. So therefore, that is what you're meant to do. And it becomes an automatic tag, and we then put into that box that we then carry. And when you rebel against it, it becomes a bigger issue. Okay, are there anything else you want to say to us?
No, just praying that everyone who is faced with the challenge of going back into the classroom during this time, praying for your health and your safety, for you and your loved ones. And I ask the same for myself and my family. And that's it.
Yeah, that's all we can do. That's all we can do. And education department who decided to do, a hybrid setup or full online. Mm-hmm. Personally, I feel online is the best option at this time.
Yeah. If you have the resources.
Yeah. Yes. Forget that aspect. If you have the resources, I do feel that the online platform need to be perfected as much as possible, and that should be the way to go. Mm-hmm. Because for the moment, it is quite challenging as to what the physical classroom holds, and as we know that educators' job is very, very different from most of the job out there, because some of us are constantly dealing with children running nose, anxiety, fear, etc. And we need to embrace. Yeah. Well, this was a very different tale. It was a very different a different setup.
Yes.
Because the fact that you taught younger children and the amount of children you had in your online classroom actually lent itself to the discussion we've just had. Mm-hmm. I do hope that a lot of you out there have understand or have a greater understanding of what educators do, especially those that teach the under 7-year-olds, and how challenging it will be for them going back into the physical classroom when they have to be physically distanced from the children who would be coming into the classroom with running nose, upset because mom, dad, sister, whoever dropped them and left them in the classroom, because that's what school is all about. And the fact that the educators may not be able to embrace these children as they would normally do. We also need to look at the impact that it would have on the children. The fact that someone who they see as a teacher is not able to embrace them. That impact could lead to greater issues later on in life, because that is, for the child, is a rejection. Because me, so whatever, did not touch me today, even though I was crying. I personally cannot say to anybody that I would be able to keep the physical distance if I have that in my classroom, because as educators, it becomes an automatic thing. You automatically go to that child, automatically embrace the child. So I really do not know what to suggest to educators who will be going back in September and having to face that experience, because they're twofold: the rejection of that child if you don't interact with the child, and the fact that as an educator, how you would be feeling looking at that child crying, nose running, because mom, dad, whoever dropped them have left them and they don't want to stay. They're trying to get out of the classroom. Educators who teach under 7 know what I'm talking about. How are you going to deal with that? I don't know. I don't have the answer. For me, I know automatically I would just, because automatic, and I'm sure a lot of educators will do that. Automatically, they just go to the child and then think after. Because it's very challenging to say to a 4-year-old, oh, sorry, you can't come close to me. How would that child feel? That's something we need to think about as adults out there, when you're actually running up your mouth and say that educators are coward, etc., etc. You need to think about that. Right, thank you everybody for coming onto the platform. I wasn't ranting and raving, I was just saying the experience of where I'm at as an educator and reinforcing my colleagues around the world what we know to be true as educators. So thank you people for actually listening and coming onto the platform. I would like you to like, share, and comment. Please put your comment. I will be looking at it, and also my educators who've either been on the platform or who gone into the chat, they would be responding to that. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic evening, night, wherever you are. Stay blessed, and I'll be back tomorrow with another program of the Female Educators platform with another educator from around the world who will be sharing with you her experience of teaching online and some of the challenges, plus the challenges of going back into the physical classroom. There are a lot which people are not addressing. Take care. Bye-bye.